reasons why English-only education is better than bilingual education, one of the main points that we're going to make is that it's cheaper. For Bowling Green, as a school, spends over $500,000 a year for its ESL population students. That's quite a lot of money, and we are at the advantage of other nations to be able to just give that kind of funds to our education program. Another thing I can say is hard to implement. What are we going to do? We're not just like a country where we could have, English and Spanish speaking only students. We have, we're a nation melting pot, as they say in history. We're a melting pot, and we have people from China, people from Japan, people who speak Portuguese, all over the spectrum we are here. It's going to be hard to find the right kind of professional people who are able to address everything that these students need. Another thing is that it's going to be a lack of motivation for students to be able to want to actually learn the English language. So it might actually be a detriment to them.
So, like my esteemed colleague has just said, basically bilingual education, it's too idealistic. You may be right, you may have a decent ethical standing, but the way you're doing it is not being implemented well. According to research found from proenglish.org, 30 years of research shows that bilingual education does not lead to faster or better learning of English, does not lead to better learning of school subjects, and does not produce higher self-esteem in students. And just in case anyone talks about that, just in case anyone says that we are racist or are hostile toward minorities for saying they should learn English. Also, according to proenglish.org, politicians fear any vote against bilingual education will mark them hostile to minorities. But millions of people in 3 states voted for English language teaching, including substantial numbers from immigrant communities, a sign that politicians are out of step with the people they represent. We have the popular vote. Thank you.
Okay, so our group is going to be arguing the other side where we support bilingual education. There are 3 things as to why bilingual education is better and why we support it. 1, bilingual education builds better brains. 2, bilingual education provides better skill sets. And 3, it promotes global mindfulness. When it builds better brains, you have more gray matter, which is responsible for mental control. High levels of gray matter equals increased intellect in areas such as language, memory, and attention, which are all very important for education. Boost in brain power is a mental workout, and it fine-tunes the mind. Higher intelligence academically outperforms and scores from students who only speak English or just one language.
So today we are going to talk about bilingual education and its importance in today's society. Every day we have hundreds of students coming here unfamiliar with the English language, being thrown into our school systems. First of all, that's enough of a culture shock as it is. Second, you're expecting them to just immediately pick up where their other students have already been for a few years. The majority of students here aren't coming here, kindergarten and everything else. They're in that middle school, high school age, where they're already accustomed to their one language. By not using that other language, you're not only neglecting their culture, but you're throwing them into this world that they have no idea how to understand or even live in. On top of learning the language, they have to learn everything else that's also being thrown at them in that language. You're overloading them with just things that they don't understand. The easiest way to explain it is if I was to throw a trumpet at you and say you have to learn this immediately or within the next year to survive in this society. It's not practical. Yes, in a few cases it does work, but overall it doesn't. To back up this claim, my colleague Megan is going to talk about some of the key facts and the statistical progress that bilingual education has made.
Okay, so according to Huffington Post, there are 3 key parts of why bilingual education is really important. 1, bilingual education builds better brains. What that means is it builds more gray matter, which is responsible for muscle control, And also, when you have higher levels of gray matter, you have increased intellect in areas such as language, memory, and attention. There is a boost in brain power when you are bilingual and you have it in your education, which is a mental workout and it fine-tunes the mind. Higher intelligence is also a big factor with building brain matter. Students who are bilingual and they learn in bilingual education they academically outperform students who just speak one language. And also their SAT scores are higher than English-only students. Since bilingual education provides better skill sets, they think outside of the box when they come up with projects or anything. Their executive function is higher, which is a command system that directs the attention processes that we use for planning, solving problems, and performing other mentally demanding tasks. And also, they have better literacy skills. York University has proven that bilingual students have a deeper understanding of the structure of language. And the third point is that it promotes global mindfulness.
Okay, so you guys called the bilingual education program expensive, which it might be as opposed to English only. However, due to University of Florida study, in the long run it actually pays off. They conducted a study where it said Hispanic students, in particular, earn up to $7,000 more if they're bilingual, entering the job field.
Well, it might pay off in the long run, but in the present, it's the taxpayers' money that's going towards this funding. Jefferson County spends $5 million a year on ESL training. That includes hiring bilingual staff, training new teachers in new instructional methods, and having teachers visit students' homes to help them out with their English. Bowling Green spends about Bowling Green spends about $500,000 a year in its ESL population. So it might pay off in the long run for the student, but at the cost of everyone else.
You're spending more, but those teachers who are teaching their students bilingually are producing people that will go into the workforce, be bilingual, and perhaps even enter the education field because there will be a need for those jobs to teach other students in need of bilingual education.
Okay, I'll argue that people who are highly qualified rarely make it into the educational field. I know that's kind of insulting all of us, but if you speak more than one language, if you have a higher education, you're far less likely to be a teacher because those people usually want to pursue other careers who are more pay more. That also happened with the African American community when they were allowed to start when they were segregated into with all of us. Those African American people that went on to pursue higher education, they went off to pursue better careers other than teaching, which is also one of the problems that we have today, which is a lack of diversity within teachers themselves. And as you can see here, we're all one race. So
Very true. But by implementing bilingual education across the board,
yeah,
you're going to eliminate a lot of that need because all students will be learning education in more than one language. So it's
Right.
no longer just that one kid that's qualified or those few kids that are more advantageous than others. It's all kids across the board with both languages when they graduate high school, entering the workforce.
Not necessarily targeting the kids that need it, but it also supplements, say, most of us here have just learned English through our schooling.
mm-hmm.
If we were in a bilingual school, we could be having this debate in another language that we learned at that school. And therefore, look at all of us, we're all educators here, or going to be educators. We could be entering the workforce with a bilingual background, and therefore fulfilling the needs of an ELL teacher speaking two languages.
Well, I'm just going to jump in here back with my original quote about the popular vote. This is from the same paragraph from the politicians fearing against the bilingual education, marking them as hostile toward minorities. Immediately following that, A Reed Institute survey showed 81% of Hispanics want their children to learn English quickly, and only 12% wanted their children taught in Spanish. One of many surveys showing such attitudes. Immigrants come to this country seeking to thrive in our society, yet our public schools often fail to give them the skills needed to prosper and participate in our democratic discourse. It seems that when people immigrate here, they just want to assimilate to our country, our ways. They're going to keep their own culture and everything, of course, but they're going to keep that in the home because they feel they're obligated to learn our English language, because almost everything is written in English, like our currency, signs, the way we're taught. And
Right. And even though we don't have an official language, 77% of the people living in this country do speak this language. So English is very important to American culture in general. And yes, there are a lot of foreigners, but the problem is there's too many kinds, and we can't just accommodate for Spanish. We can't just accommodate for Mandarin. We can't just accommodate for Chinese. Okay, there's way too many people from different countries for bilingual education to work. Spanish would probably be the reasonable option. That's fine. But by doing that, you're alienating the 2.6 million people that speak Chinese, the 1.5 million people in this country who speak Tagalog, 1.3 speak French, 1.3 million speak Vietnamese, 1.1 million speak German, and 1 million speak Korean. And that's just the top ones that speak above. There's over 1 million people that speak that language in this country. So it's a great idea, but it won't work for everyone.
But as of right now, just the English only isn't working for everyone. You just listed off all those various languages that some struggle with English education.
Yeah.
By implementing these programs, no, you don't accommodate everybody, but that's unrealistic. You can never accommodate 100% of everybody. But if you could accommodate the vast majority of your population, and then you could work on, later on, once those programs have worked and it's become efficient, which we do have results that bilingual education has worked in various states like Hawaii, California, and Washington, D.C. There's also been factual data that this does work overall.
There's factual data to support both sides.
There are.
Yeah.
But a lot of your side is with the cost of it, which by taking the risk now and putting that money towards education now, in the long run, it will pay back and it will equal out.
Okay, but again, how do you accommodate for all those other people? Isn't it better, instead of having just bilingual education, teaching everyone in English, and then have some kind of support on the side to help those struggling students, other than just send them to bilingual schools and say the language being spoken at the bilingual school is Spanish and English, but then someone from China comes in here. They don't know English or Spanish, and now you're forcing them to learn two languages at once.
Are you assuming there's not going to be an ELL teacher on the side, outside of the regular classroom where bilingual education is being conducted?
What do you mean? Wait, what?
Like, say you're in a school where the bilingual education is English and Spanish,
Yes.
and a Chinese student comes in, he doesn't
Oh
speak
yeah, I
any
am
of either.
assuming that. Yes.
There could also be an ESL teacher that works with that group of students that doesn't conform to English or Spanish.
Okay.
And they take them aside and have that specialized lesson like that.
That's even more money.
basically, for accommodating those students, wouldn't it be almost it wouldn't be cost effective, because the students are going to graduate in 4 years, and then what happens to the teacher if no incoming students who speak Chinese or a different language? What happens to that instructor who teaches in Chinese and English, and
But that's the
would they
same.
get fired?
That's the same problem that we have now in our education system. You have those teachers that are specialized in that one language, and the students graduate. No, they don't get fired. They have their job. They learn to teach other various types of students or different dialects of that core language. So your argument of in 4 years they're gone is really invalid. because every day there are hundreds of students coming over here learning various different dialects of one main language. That's why with bilingual education, by covering Spanish, although no, it's not a perfect situation, it does cover the vast majority of students.
Right, so if you have a certified ESL teacher and one particular year it's all students that are focusing on English and Spanish, well that's a certified ESL teacher. They shouldn't just be there because, oh, they can speak Chinese as well. They should be there because they're certified to assist students that are learning another language. So in this case, whether they're from Mexico and they speak Spanish and they're learning English, they could be in the classroom aiding that during the English spoken parts. They wouldn't be out of a job, there would still be a need for them.
Because of they know instruction rather than language.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Because they're certified in that area.
Alright.
But
So
for,
what would be the problem with having a few of those teachers in an English only until the majority
because
scales tip the other way?
Just to make
Because
a fair point, like if we did like incorporate that, not just strictly go into the bilingual, make it like a subtle transition, still keep the English only, but keep the ESL as a way to get to the ideal of the bilingual education. ESL teachers could take a course on content areas like English literature or something like that, and the general education teacher could also take courses in the secondary language like Spanish, anything.
how do you account for in areas of a high population of say Spanish speakers like Texas, New Mexico, Florida? You expect them to go into an English only environment and just be able to kind of be there and suffer when an aide is outnumbered clearly, as opposed to maybe where we are now in Northeast Pennsylvania? You know, I feel like if they were in an English only environment, that'd kind of be like telling them to go jump in the river, and if you can swim, great. If not, well, maybe we'll throw out a buoy to you. I don't know.
Right, but those. See,
Wouldn't you rather have a bridge for them to get over this river?
I don't agree with it, but
Wouldn't
I like
you rather
it.
be able to meet halfway and they're able to keep their cultural identity and learning the language of the country they're in now?
And you're forgetting all the cognitive
But-
benefits of
True.
being
But
Yeah,
bilingual
English
education.
only, you're
just,
not losing your
we're
you're not
13 and a
losing
half,
your
and we didn't
culture.
even-
But you're not encouraging it either.
Right. We're encouraging American culture because this is where they're at.
But
What about-
culture is a melting pot.
Exactly.
We're a melting pot.
Yeah.
Meaning, when you came here, you didn't lose your Portuguese culture.
No,
You
I
kept it
didn't.
at home.
Yes.
But
In
when
an
you went to
English only
school,
environment too. So overall, English only education is cheaper. It's just it spends too much money is spent on training new teachers, hiring bilingual teachers, and all those resources that are required to meet the needs of bilingual education. And while it may pay down the road, right now it's everyone's tax money that is going towards all of this. Point number 2 is that it's extremely hard to implement. There's way too this country is built on diversity. It's a melting pot. And there's way too many different languages that are being spoken, and we can't just accommodate to one of them and then forget all the others. So English only with some extra support on the side, catering to each district's needs, because obviously there's different populations in each area, would be a better solution than just full-on bilingual education.
And just to bring up a little current event into this, the Syrian refugee crisis, all that. Syrian refugees are going to Germany, and Germany's taking all of them in, and they're teaching them, and they're dealing with the influx, according to an article source. Germany's teachers and educators are dealing with the influx by trying to provide the German language courses and counseling to young refugees who have experienced traumatic events. They are incorporating basically German-only education in order to integrate the Syrian refugees into their society. It's basically what we've been doing forever.
Right, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to lose their Syrian heritage. It just means that they're going to assimilate into the German heritage,
Cut.
which is how
That was too much.
foreign students can integrate into our culture. Now cut.
So in closing, bilingual education, it's supporting those children that come here every day, unsure of the English language, and accommodating them, and also improving the students that we already have here by culturally immersing them in various languages.
There are way too many cognitive benefits for bilingual education. It builds better brains with the gray matter and the muscle control. When the high levels of gray matter, you have increased intellect, and it's a mental workout. Higher intelligence with these students. I mean, they do better on SAT scores, which, I mean, SAT scores are very difficult right now, but when you have them bilingually, then these students who don't have English as their first language will be actually able to perform, their best. And then it does provide a better level of skill sets. With their attention span, it helps them plan, it helps them solve problems, and it helps them perform mentally demanding tasks, which is what you need in education.
And as Ari touched on, bilingual education promotes global mindfulness. In today's society, when all of our countries are linked, whether for good, bad, economic reasons, political reasons, it creates a better environment and better citizens for the world by teaching people more than one language. Not only for people coming here, but for the native English speakers here. It gives you new viewpoints on different cultures, a mutual understanding cross-culturally, and just an overall perspective on how the world works. Thanks.